factors that influence the performance is the principle of locality. So I told you that principle of locality is all about the references, memory references. So probably right, whatever the data just we are in need, if that is available either in cache or my memory, it may be very helpful, right? So if it is not available, it may lead to a cache miss, memory miss. So it has to be again loaded from hard disk or main memory to cache, and then it has to be done. Okay, so for that aspects, I think we talk about two things. One is what is that? One is a temporal locality, another one is the spatial locality. So based on those two things, so which page has to go to the memory. So that is that. The principle of locality is all about that. Whatever the things that we need, I mean, again, it's a kind of predictions. Only those features has to be there in the cache. If it is not available, it may lead to cache miss. Since it is a cache miss, probably right, it may affect the performance. Okay, so that is the second thing. One is the parallelisms, and the second thing is the principle of locality. And now, right, these two things are explained on that day. Now we will move on to the third case. Okay, is it visible?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So right now, these two things I told you. Okay? One is with respect to the parallelism, and the one is with respect to the locality. And right now, it is we'll go for the third case. So third case here, right? They're just seeing the where the improvement can be done with the any component if the occurrence is frequent. Okay, so it may be any things, any component. So say for example, instruction fetch and the decode unit of a processor, right, may be more used more frequently than a multiplier. So if you give much concentration for that, maybe their performance can be improved. So in that aspects, they are going for how to improve the performance. So if you are going for applying this kind of principles, first we have to decide what is the frequent case. So to which case we have to do, and how much performance can be improved by making that case faster. Okay, these two factors has to be analyzed. Clear? So what is that case? And if you are improved, how much performance can be achieved with that? So to do that, two methods they are going. One is the Amdahl's law. With the help of Amdahl's law, they are trying to achieve the performance. And the other one is processor performance equations. Okay, so one method is Amdahl's law. The other method is processor performance equation for this case. Clear? So when you are trying to improve something, so thereby the performance is going to get improved. So this is the idea. So to meet out this, they are going for two ways. One is the Amdahl's law. So when you just going for Amdahl's law, say for example, it is nothing but we are just defined the speed up that can be gained by using a particular feature. So one or other way, the speed up is going to be gained by using some features. Okay, so performance improvement to be gained from using some faster mode of executions. So probably right. So when you are just assume that if your CPU, if you are executing faster frequencies, probably right, there may be a gain. So the execution time will be reduced. So it may be a gain, but it is limited by the fraction of the time the faster mode can be used. But again, the same thing, right? When you keep executing the processor at a higher frequency, so probably right, the heat dissipations will be more, and probably there may be some other impact also. So this what? So performance improvement to be gained from using some faster mode of execution is limited by the fraction of the time the faster mode can be used. So in general, higher the fraction of time faster mode executed, better the improvement in gain. So when you're just going something in faster mode execution, so probably right there will be an improvement in the gain. So Amdahl's laws give you a quick way to find the speed up from some enhancement. So when you're just going for some enhancement, so how much speed up we are going to get? That's the ratio. Amdahl's laws is going to give. So just when you just go with the speed up, they're saying this. So performance for entire task using enhancement when possible. So divided by the performance for entire task without using the enhancements. Okay, this is the ratio. And when you just go with the execution time, on the day we have discussed, right? So I mean, performance will be the reciprocal of the execution time. So this time it will be execution time for entire task without using. So I think here you clear. Sorry. This is performance of entire task with the enhancement. Okay, so here the execution time of entire task without using the enhancement divided by execution time for entire task using the enhancement when possible. Okay, so this is all about the Amdahl's laws. So when you're just going for enhancement, so purely it is depend on two factors. One is the fraction, and I mean how much fraction we are going to enhance, and with that fraction how much speed up we are going to obtain, or how much improvement we are going to obtain. So those two are the important factors with respect to the enhancement. Okay, so the fraction of the computation time in the original computer that can be converted to take the advantage of the enhancements. So when you just go for a fraction, it should be always less than or equal to 1. When you go with the speed up, the improvement that is gained by the enhanced execution mode, it should be always greater than 1. So just keep remember. So fraction, it should be always less than or equal to 1. When you go with speed up, it should be always greater than 1. So assume that if you want to calculate the execution time with the enhanced mode, so I think these two are the parameters. One is the time spent using without enhancement plus time spent using enhancement. Okay, so this what the new execution time will be execution time of old into, so 1 minus fraction enhanced. So probably we cannot do the any parallelisms for that they are given, plus fraction enhanced divided by speed up enhanced. So this is for execution time. So when you just find the speed up overall, execution time old by new. So I think that we just substitute. So that way we will get this. This is for overall speed up. Clear. So this formula, I think we just keep remember this. Maybe they may get a, I mean you may get a problem on this. Okay. So overall speed up. I mean they may give all the values. So from that value, you have to find out the overall speed up. Okay. Suppose they gave one problem. This what the problem is. The new processor is 10 times faster. Okay. So the new processor is 10 times faster on computation in the web serving applications than the original processor. So this is like a enhancement. So it is 10 times faster. Assuming your original processor is busy with the computation of 40% and I/O timing is 60%. Okay, so new processor is 10 times faster. So speed up will be 10. Okay? So speed up for the enhanced will be 10. And when you go for the fraction that can be enhanced, so see computation is for 40% and I/O activity is 60%. So in this, which can be enhanced? Suppose if you want to make an enhancement, which can be enhanced? Can we make an enhancement on I/O? I/O activities. Can you make an enhancement on I/O activities? So you may assume that you are going to fetch the data from memory. So probably right, there is nothing to be done. If something is going to fetch the data from, assume that so 2 to 3 instructions say wants to fetch the data from memory at the location 1000. Can we parallelize something that or write data onto that? Can we parallelize? Can we parallelize the I/O activity? Yes or no? So we can do it. Okay. So I/O. Okay. So we cannot parallelize the I/O activity. Only the computation part can be parallelized. So that's why right they are given us fraction enhanced as 0.4 and the speed up enhanced is 10 times faster. So based upon this, by substituting in this formula, speed up overall. So we know what is fraction enhanced and what is speed up enhanced. So from that, just they are trying to find the overall speed. Based on that formula, you calculate this. Okay, so maybe right the twist they may give here only. So you have to be very careful. Whichever the things that can be parallelized, only those things can be enhanced. So keep remember IO activity cannot be enhanced. So only right computation part can be enhanced. So in that assumptions, right? So fraction enhanced is only 0.4 and the speed up is 10 and the overall speed up is 1.56. Okay, so this is with respect to Amdahl's law. So how to improve the performance and so this what when you are going to use the Amdahl's law, it serves a guide to say how much an enhancement will improve the performance and how to distribute the resource to improve the cost performance. So this what it says. How much an enhancement will improve the performance. So this is the main thing with respect to the Amdahl's law. But the problem is this. So it is often difficult to measure those things directly. So because some fractions we need to improve, so thereby the performance has to get improved. But it is very difficult to estimate that values. So that's the problem with Amdahl's laws. So for that, right, what they are doing is they are going for processor performance equation. So this is the second way. Okay, processor performance equation is the second way to improve the uh, performance of systems. So what they are doing is they have started decomposing this CPU execution time into three separate components. So very important, okay? So CPU execution time is going to decompose into three separate components. So let me see what are those three components. So when you just take any, assume that if you want to calculate the CPU time for a program. So how to estimate it? It is all about how many clock cycles for a program, isn't it? Say if suppose if you have a program like adding up two numbers, you may have some numbers. So first you will load the data. So we will load the data and then we will add it and then we will store it. So every instructions will have some clock cycles. So these clock cycles is already fixed. So as you may be right, this may take two clock cycle, it may take one clock cycle, two clock cycles. So like this, right? Every instructions will have some clock cycles. Okay, so how many clock cycles for a program into how much times to execute that. Okay, so this is the CPU time. Yeah, so that is how many clock cycles for a program into clock cycle time. So that can be written as this because I mean this is in terms of frequency. So you know, right, T equal to 1 by F. So CPU time will be CPU clock cycle for a program divided by the clock rate. So this is one thing. And this is the other very important factor that is associated with the execution time of a program, that is CPI, average number of clock cycles per instructions. So how to estimate that? This one, CPI will be these CPU clock cycles for a program divided by the number of instructions. This formula, this is also very important. Okay. CPI is equal to clock cycles for a program divided by the instruction count. So if you rewrite, CPU cycles will be CPI into IC. So previously we know, right, CPU time will be what? CPU clock cycle into clock cycle time. So the instruction count, CPI and the clock cycle time. So these three are the major components that constitute the execution time of a program. Clear? So how many instructions? Clock cycles per instructions and the clock cycle time. So these components will constitute for CPU time. I think based on these things, they have written the formula. The one thing to be to be noted here is that if there is an improvement in any one of them, will leads to 10% improvement in CPU time, and all the three technology, that is the instruction count, CPI, and the clock cycle are interdependent. Okay, so all those things are closely related because when you just take clock cycle time, it is purely associated with hardware technology and organizations. So probably right, if you just how many it's all about the frequency that they are going to give it to the processor. So based upon that, clock cycle time will be there, and the CPI clock cycles per instruction is all about again the organization and the instruction set architecture. Only during while designing the instruction set architecture, so they will design the CPIs, and similarly instruction count. Instruction count is also the same thing, right? If suppose if you are written something on high level languages, if you want to convert, so which plays into the role, because we need to choose the corresponding instruction, right? Suppose if it is there is a difference between like a plus 2, if it is c equal to a plus 2, so this will be as an immediate data, and this has to be loaded from the memory. Okay, so accordingly, right, the instruction is going to get varied, because if you take this, it will be like this: we need to load a, we need to load b, and then we need to add all those things, we have to do it. But if you take these instructions, we need to load only the a, and directly, right, we can add the a with the 2. So that's what, when you just go with the instruction count, it is about the instruction set architecture and the compiler technology, because here the compiler plays the vital role, because this is the one which is converting the program from high level languages to your assembly code. So all those things as influencing the CPU time. So I think they are given how for clock cycle completely they are given. Suppose if you have an instructions, so what is the instruction count and the CPI for every instructions. So from that, right, they are calculating the CPU time. Okay. So this is the CPU time, and to measure up the CPI, you just this is the overall CPI formulas. Okay. This is the second method. Okay, I think you remember these formulas. IC into CPI into clock cycle. This is very important. And this part. Okay, this formulas. Just remember. Tomorrow, I think this problem tomorrow I will explain you. With respect to processor performance equations, I explain these problems. Okay. So I think that with that, we come to the end of chapter 1. I think the first part of your unit 1. So I'm just I'm insisting with respect to chapter 1. Just go through these slides. This is more than enough. And problem things, whatever we discussed in the books, a similar kind of problem. Only the value may be changed. If suppose if there is a problem in this chapter, only similar kind of problem you may get it. Only they will change the number things. Okay. That's the first thing I need to say. And as a theory aspects, it is more than enough to just to look onto these PPTs itself. Okay. But if you want to have like some may have a habit like to read a book. So after reading also, you just give an overview with these PPTs. So it may be helpful for you to attend the questions. So that's I need to say. And the test right coming Saturday, have a DAA exam. Do you have exams? DAA on Saturday?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the test is postponed to Monday. Instead of today, the exam test is postponed to Monday. Yeah. So be ready. I think the classes will be there. Hardly like 15 minutes. Only at that time it may be scheduled, or at the end of the day it may be scheduled. I think your classes won't be disturbed. So other than classes, you may need to write a test. For MCQ type, I think it is this is enough. With respect to PPT, PPT is more than enough for you. Okay. So just I will give a short recap of this. So when you just go with the chapter 1, first we have seen the computer architecture and instruction set architecture, how instruction set architecture plays a vital role. And when you go with the instruction set architecture, so you please remember those terms and all. Okay, the load store architecture, register memory organizations, addressing modes. So the byte addressing, and few more factors, right? So please, these are all very important. It is not only for this architecture, for any architecture. So these are all very important. And kindly you just know the difference between what is the RISC architecture, what is CISC architectures, and what is the difference between a microprocessor and a microcontrollers, and what the architecture that we are going to read in this book. So keep remember the examples that we are going to cover in this syllabus. I mean, throughout our book is MIPS architecture only. We are not going for ARM. Okay, so you may read ARM in CO, but here right all the examples is based on MIPS 64 architectures. So initially, right, the first importance has been given on instruction set architecture, and slowly it is moved for the technologies, cost, and the dependabilities, energies, and finally the performance. When you just talk with the performance, one is with the parallelisms, another one is with the principle of locality, and finally with respect to the frequent case. So whatever it is going, whatever the component which is going to be used frequently, maybe if we are improving it, so thereby the performance can be improved. So in that assumption, they gone for two things. One is the Amdahl's law, another one is processor performance equations. So though Amdahl's law is try to achieving, but it is very hard to say the fractions. So that's why they are going for CPI, processor performance equations. In case of processor performance equations, the CPU time is decomposed into three major components. One is the instruction count, another one is the CPI, and another one is the CPU cycle time. Yes, those three are the major components. Okay, so this is all about chapter 1. So with that, the story is over. So now, right, we will move on to chapter 3. So listen, chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about all about instruction level parallelisms. So here, right, we are just going to see. This is the overview of these slides. But in general, right, I told you, right, instruction level parallelisms. There is a one way wherein we are going to improve the performance of the systems. So in the instruction level parallelisms, there are two important things that can be done. That instruction level parallelisms can be achieved by two ways. One is either by means of a software or by means of hardware. So this chapter 3 is fully focused with that. So how to exploit the instruction level parallelism through software and how to exploit the instruction level parallelism through hardware. So when it is software, here software in the sense clearly it is a compiler. How instruction level parallelisms can be done with the help of the compiler. So this what first few topics is going to focus. First few topics just we are going to see about these things. How to exploit instruction level parallelism using the compilers. And next things we are going to see is hardware, using hardware, how to exploit the instruction level parallelisms. So these two things. And already I said when it is instruction level parallelisms, so what is the way? All is what? Just we are going for potential overlapping among the instructions, isn't it? So it is all about pipelining. So keep remember when it is instruction level parallelisms, it is all about pipelining. So that's what they're saying, the potential overlap among the instructions, and the instructions can be evaluated in parallel. So here I said there are two approaches to exploit the ILP. One is the hardware approach, the other one is the software technologies. Okay, so based on these two approach, we can exploit the instruction level parallelisms. When you just go with the hardware in desktop and server market, hardware based approach dominate, and the remaining cases weren't right software based. Or else, when you if you want to speak more general, so when you just go with the RISC based, so RISC based architecture, it may go with software based approach. And the CISC based architecture, it will prefer hardware based approach. Okay, which means to exploit instruction level parallelisms, most of the RISC-based architecture is software based, and for CISC-based, most of it is hardware based. That's why, right, I told you earlier, designing a compiler for RISC is difficult. Software is on, I mean, here the emphasis on software, here the emphasis is much on hardware. So Intel people, they will get, they will try to decide all the work has to be done in the hardware aspects. But when you go with the RISC, all the things has to be done at the software side. Only a single byte instruction has to be given to the hardware, and the hardware has to execute simply. So that's the major aim of the RISC. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So the RISC architecture, it is going to be software based, and the CISC architecture will follow the hardware based methodology to exploit the instruction level parallelisms. So in general, right, we have these three things. So CPI pipeline. So just now we saw what is CPI. It's the clock cycle per instruction, which is nothing but CPI in ideal pipelining plus the CPI starts. So maybe right. This is essentially sometimes is that, but here they are given something as CPI starts. So stars here in the sense here it is ideal. This is ideal pipelining. That is the effective time that has been used. And here the CPI stall is all about idle. So it means that it is not getting any input. So because of something, it is waiting. So that we are saying it as CPI stalls. So the processor is not doing anything. It is waiting for some inputs. So when you just when you make the stalls, it has been divided into three types. It may be either a structural stalls or a data hazard stalls or a control stalls. Here, so it's a structural, data hazard and control stall. So okay, let me first differentiate what those stalls are. Okay, so we take CPI. This is the CPI for the ideal and the stalls. So with respect to stalls, three, right? One is the structural. So another one is data. Another one is the control. Okay. So what is structural stalls? Or sometimes they will say it as a structural dependence. Because of structural dependence, so the stalls may be there. So what is that? It is all with respect to, very important, a resource conflict, if remember. Which means two or more instructions is waiting for the same resource. So that time we are saying is that time we are saying it as structural stalls. Say for example, suppose we have like this instruction fetch, decode, execute, write to the memory, memory write, and then finally memory write and finally write back. So pipelining has been divided into nowadays even 12-15 stages. So first instruction, it is writing to the memory. Assume that the first instruction is writing to the memory. So now write the second instruction, it wants something from the memory. Okay, this is also doing in the same location, and this instruction has to be get something on that locations. Clear? So now right, both is depending on the same resource, which is the memory. Okay, so both has been onto the same locations, it's a memory. So that's the problem here. So when it is depends, when both are when one or more instructions is depending on the same resource, so such time, right, what will happen? You will get a structural stalls. So structural stalls is with respect to resource conflict. Next one is the data dependence. So data dependence, or we can say it as data stalls. So this is something from the name itself, it is very clear. Suppose we have an instruction like this, add R0, R1, R2. Second, store R0 to some locations. So can we execute these two instructions in parallel? Is it possible to do it? Because after adding, the results will be placed in R0, and this is the one we need to place it. You got it or not? So this was the data dependence. So the output of one instruction is input to the next instructions. So that is called data dependence. So probably right, when you have a data dependence, obviously what we need to do, we have to wait until this instruction is executed. So this instruction has to get wait. So probably you may have a stalls over that. Yeah. So this what I mean. This is the second cases, and the third one is control stalls. When you go with the control stalls, assume you have like this instruction one, something, instruction two. Instruction two is all about jump to the address 300. So this is 100. This is 101. Some 102. So like this 300, we have something. So if you take fetch decode execute stage, assume we take this. So what will happen when instruction 1 is in execute stage, instruction 2 will come here, instruction 3 will be in the fetch stage. It will be like this. So when, others will take this. Instruction 2 is in execute stage, instruction 3 in decode, and instruction 4 will come here. But after executing instruction 2, we get to know where it has to go. It has to go to the instruction. We need to load the instruction at the location 3000, sorry, 300. So probably what we need to do, we have to do a flush. So because instruction 3 and 4 are already loaded, what we need to flush all those things. The instruction 3 and instruction 4 has to be flushed from the pipeline, and again we need to load the data in instruction in 300, and the next cycle's instruction 300 will be in decode, 301 will be in fetch state. It will be like this. So again, how many cycles has been wasted? Some 2 to 3 cycles will be wasted in that. Okay, so this is the problem with respect to the control stars. Here, so one is the structural dependence, another one is the data dependence, and the third one is the control dependence. Dependence and the control dependence can be somewhat we can manage it, but structural we can't do it, because probably right, if both is going to depend on the same resource, maybe by scheduling, I don't know how far it is possible, but that may be, but that may not be feasible. But data dependence and control dependence can be reduced. Okay, so this can be somewhat avoided using some methodology. Either it may be by means of the software or by means of a hardware. I think you in CO you come across with the control stalls. How to overcome the control stalls?
Predicting that the branch is taken or not.
Yes, what?
Predicting, ma'am.
Yeah, that is branch prediction, right? You just go for 1 bit, 2 bit branch predictions. So maybe by means of that, right, we can do it, because when instruction 2 comes to the decode stage itself, that itself they will try to predict something, and accordingly they will try to load the data onto the pipelining. So this what with respect to controls, and the data dependence we will see, because we are going to see so many methodologies that we are trying to reduce the data dependence. Okay, so this what it is. When you are just going for this, so when you just go with the secret pipelining, so one is idle time, and other than some time will be wasted because of the stalls, and the stalls are for what? One is the structural stalls, data hazard stalls, and the control stalls. So here structural, keep remember this is resource, and these two, as the name implies, the data hazard and the control stall. So this one, if by reducing each of these term, we can decrease the overall pipelining CPI or increase the IPCs, instructions, number of instructions per cycles. So when normally what happens is when you just go with the compare things, if you just think much deeper. We are roughly saying right, it takes high level language and it is giving the object program. But between this, it is doing plenty of work. Compiler, right? In sixth semester or yeah, in some sixth semester you will do it. So there are so many space like lexical phase, parser, parsing phase you have, and then intermediate code conversions will happen, and finally, right here the backend step will happen. Wherein right here all the optimization. So of that, right, instruction scheduling will happen here. So all those things will happen. To do this instruction scheduling, normally, right, what they will do is the compiler will divide our entire program into basic blocks. Okay, so what is that basic blocks? Normally it will be small, but the basic block, it's a small straight line code sequence with no branches in except to the entry and no branches out except to the exit. So it will be like this. Yeah, I can give you like this branch equal something it may go. So after that I have sequence of instructions, some branch exit. So anything between this is the blocks. It means there is no branch instruction within that block. Okay, so that they are saying as a basic blocks. Okay, so exploiting ILP inside the block is much easier, but when you just go for across the multiple basic blocks, the improvement performance can be improved, but it is very difficult to exploit the parallelism between the multiple blocks. But anyway, we're trying. It's going to be done, but this is what they're saying it. Okay. So first understand what is a basic block. It's a straight line code sequence with no branches into the entry and no branches except at the exit. So loop level parallelism is a kind of instruction level parallelisms. Okay, loop level parallelism is a kind of instruction level parallelisms. So here what we are trying to do is, what we can do is we can exploit the parallelisms among iteration of a loop. This is very important. Okay? The parallelisms can be exploited based upon the iterations of a loop. Suppose if we take this loop, so this loop is what 1000 elements. We have 1000 array elements, and we need to add these 1000 array elements. Can we parallelize this? Can we parallelize this instruction? I mean, assume that I can do like x of 0 plus y of 0 plus x of 0 plus y of 0, x of 1 equal to x of 1. I mean, this is what it is trying to say, right? This code is trying to say, so like this, right? X of 999 equal to x of 999 plus y of 999. So when you take as an individual instruction, is there any dependency between these instructions? Or even with the memory location, is there any dependency?
No.
Yeah, one thing I need to say, if it is referenced by, I mean, here also we have x of 1, here also we have x of 1. Don't think that here it is a data dependence. Understood? In a single instruction, don't say that it is data dependence. Only with the multiple instructions, we have to say data dependence. Okay, so keep remember this point. Sometimes many will write down. So data dependence is not with respect to single instructions. It is with two instructions or multiple instructions. So if you take these instructions, there is no dependency between these instructions. And at the same time, right, even when you just go for the resource, this is assume this is accessing 1000 or 2000. This may access 1004 and this is 2004. So there is no conflict at all. So these things can be completely parallelized. Clear? This is so now how to parallelize these things can be done decided by the compiler. So how, I mean, the compiler will write a code to parallelize this set of instructions. So whenever I mean, when you have an iteration of the loop, this is this what you can use SIMD instructions. It is the one which is exploiting the data level parallelisms. Another one is the vector instruction, which exploits data level parallelisms by operating on many data items in parallel using both parallel executions unit and a deep pipelining. So I will discuss this later. You may get, keep remember either using vector instructions or SIMD instructions. Okay, both is for exploiting the data level parallelisms. So what will happen? Simple, as the name implies vector. So you know what is vector? Again, it is an array. A single instruction will be capable to operate multiple data. So assume some instructions which is capable to add eight data in an array. Okay, so that right, that a single instruction is the, I forgot the instruction, but instruction is single, but it is capable to add 8 data right from assume that a of 0 to a of 7. The single instruction is capable to add 8 data. That is vector instructions. Or else SIMD instruction is similar. One instructions. So we can give one instructions and accordingly we can execute. Okay. So by these two ways we can exploit the data level parallelisms. Yeah. So If you take this instruction, here you have one add. Okay, so you have one add instruction. And how many load instructions? Two load. We need to load x of I, y of I. So we have two load instructions. And how many updates? We need to do x of I, you have to update, and here I also has to get update. And we have two update instructions and one branch instructions. So we are going to convert this to an assembly code. I mean, these are the possible things. We will see in the next slide. Okay. So till this, any doubt? See, instruction level parallelisms is all about overlapping of instructions, which is nothing but the pipelining. So when you just go with the pipelining, we may have an ideal time, plus we may have some stalls. That stall is because of what? One is the structural, data hazard, and the control stalls. So structural is all about resource, data hazard is the data dependence, and control stall is with respect to the branch. So if these things can be minimized, the performance can be improved. Okay. And when you want to exploit the instruction level parallelisms, the compiler, right, what it does is it will try to convert the code into the basic blocks. So basic blocks is a sequence of block code. I mean, at the exit, you may have a branch instructions. I mean, that's the basic things. And if you exploit the parallelisms among all the basic blocks, probably the performance can be improved. Okay, let's keep remember this. And one type of instruction level parallelism is loop level parallelism. Okay. So when you just go for loop level parallelisms, with respect to iterations, we need to parallelize it. So in these examples, it can be achieved by two ways. One is either using SIMD architecture, single instructions, multiple data, or else using vector instructions. So vector instruction, as the name implies, a single instruction is capable to operate on multiple data. Okay. So by these two things, we can do it. Okay. So first, we will see for data dependence. I told you structural is very hard because when two instruction is going to depend on something, so probably we cannot do it, but there are some mechanisms we will see later. So first we will go for data dependence. So basically, like we have three types of data dependence. One is true data dependence, another one is name dependence, the third one is control dependence. So what is data dependence or true data dependence? So, an instruction J is data dependent on instruction I if either of the following hold. So we have assumed that we have three instructions: instruction I, instruction J, and instruction K. So what is happening? Instruction J produces a result that may be used by instruction J. So whatever the result that is produced by instruction I is going to be used by instruction J. Instruction J is data dependent on instruction K. And K is data dependent on I. Got it or not? So this was whatever the data it is I is going to give. So I mean, after executing the I only, we can able to execute the J instruction. Similarly, right? K, whatever the I mean, it is also depend upon the from K, but K is dependent on what? The instruction I. So this, right, we are just saying it as data dependence. So is it possible to parallelize here? It's a question. Okay. Let me take an example here. So I think these instructions under thereafter you just be careful. First I explain this code. So L dot T, this is the load, and we are going to load the double data. Okay. Since it is a load double data, here we are using the register F0, which is the floating point registers. Okay. This since it is a MIPS architecture, we have 32 registers, 32 integer data registers R0 to R31, and similarly floating point register F0 to F31. So this load, so L dot D is load the double data. D here mentioned the double from this address, offset of R1. So from this address, what we are doing is we are loading the data to the register F0. Next, add the double data. Whatever the data in F0 is added with the F2. F2 is the scalar value. Maybe write some value is there. So this is something like this. So whatever data in F0 will be added and it will be moved to the register F4. And this is something like this. Whatever the data, in the location of R1, so that data will be moved to the location F0. So this instruction implies this, and this instruction this. So finally, right, what we need to do it. So the data F4, right, we have to store to the location which is pointed by R1. This one. Now, this double add UI, we are incrementing the register or decrementing the pointer by 8 bytes. Just you can take it to any account. It is something like this. So listen. Assume just we are going to add the data in the memory. So it will be like this. So each one is 8 bytes. So 0, 8, 16, 24. So 0 to 7. So it will be like this. So each one is 8 bytes. And I think I told you already here. Here, this is going for decrement. Even when we just go for a loop, normally we will do like this, right? I equal to 0. I is greater than something, some numbers, right? Greater than 10, I minus plus plus. Like this, we will do it, right? Yeah, this is similar, right? I equal to 0, I less than or equal to 99, I equal to I plus plus. But normally, instead of increment loop, so if suppose if you are right having a loop like this, I equal to 0, okay, I less than 10, I plus plus, something like this. So this is what, this is the increment loop. Is it sound same? This is decrement loop, isn't it? But both the loop is for what? Executing some set of statement for 10 times, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Both the statement is for that. Which can be used? Whether we need to go for a increment loop or a decrement loop. Sorry, people are there? Only 36, very good. Which loop you need to use, increment loop or decrement loop? Or is there any restriction?
Can use any of the loop.
Yeah, we can use, but we have been practiced to use this loop, right? We have been practiced to use the increment loop, but as a good coder, right, you need to go for decrement loop. Because why we need to go for decrement loop? I think many people will insist also. See, what is happening here is, suppose this case, and some operation has been 10. After that, I need to compare whether I has reached 10. Some compare instruction has to be done accordingly, right? I need to do some branching kind of things. If it is not equal to, I need to go here. But this case, this is after decrementing the I. Assume we have decremented the I. After incrementing, sorry. We are incrementing the I. After incrementing, you are comparing whether I has been reached to the 10 value. If it is not reached, again we need to do something according to the case. But when you go with the decrement loop, what is happening is you will decrement the I. Once after decrementing the I, since we are decrementing, we are just going for I equal to 0, isn't it? We are just going for that case. So, you don't need a compare statement. Here is it needed? No need. Directly write. What we can do is we can go for branch not equal. It is purely right. This is the conditional code. I mean, in case of ARM, it is going to be a conditional code, or in case of MIPS, it may compare this register. It may compare the I register. Okay, so that's the difference. So here is there is a need for compare instruction here? Because every instruction, whatever the arithmetic instructions we are performing, it may affect the flags. So when it is affecting the flag, so probably right, this code will directly check the flags or directly check the registers and it will get executed. This compare instruction is no needed. Yeah, this is the problem with the branch instruction and control stalls. Here, so that's why, right, keep remember, though we are not seeing impact when you are writing the code on high level languages, but when you just go with the high level languages, wherever you explore the assembly language program, they will go with this case, the second case, the decrement loop kind of things. The same examples, I mean, we are seeing here also. See, here what is happening is, this code is all about this. Okay. So some location, assume some 3 bytes only, so 0 to 7, I mean here 8 to 16, so 24, like this is there. So initially, right, so first offset will be like 24. So the base address, assume some base address will be there and the offset will be as 24. So or not, and just we are given us this things is loaded to the register F0. Okay, so assume that this offset value is going to be 24 and R0 will be the array element. So 0 plus 24, the element will be loaded. So after that, what they are doing it, some addition has been happening. This F0 is added with some registers and the result is moving to some more registers. And again, this F4 is stored to the location 0. So whatever the data they have fetched, so the same data, some scalar value they have added and the result will be updated here. Next, what is happening? Now this 24 has to be decremented. So now they are just going for decrement. So that's why, right, R1 comma hash minus 8. They are decrementing minus 8, which means from 24 to 16. They are decrementing. And then if it is not equal to 0, again they are repeating this step. This what it is happening in the code. Understood or not? So just don't get confused. It's better, right? You just go for a decrement loop to avoid extra comparison statement. So that is the aim over there. Okay. I think this instruction is this. So any doubt? So we are loading the data to F0, and after that the F0 is added with the F2 and put it to F4. From F4 we are placing the same result there, and after that we are decrementing the R1 by 8 bytes, and then just we are comparing if R1 is not equal to R2, and we are looping it. Yeah. So this what
What is R2 here?
R2 is 0. The last element. Last, see here given they are given us with the last element at 8 of R2. Okay, so last element location, I'm assuming that I'm just given as 0. The last element location is 0. So when it is decrement, so it may be 0. We are just storing, assume that we are storing. This is stored already. Previously, R2 will be stored with some values. But the statement they are given like this. Got it?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, DA means
Yes?
DA.
Add. This is add. Integer. So double add unsigned integer R1. So which is it's happened like this. R1 plus minus 8. Integer registers. We are using the integer registers. Whenever you are going for floating point, it will be .d. If it is normal cases, it will be the case. Yes, this have you remember why it is R1 comma R2? Why it is R1 comma R2?
We are checking the for loop condition, ma'am. That's why R1 and R2.
See, normally, right, this what I told you. If suppose if it is ARM or some CISC based architecture, what would happen is if you are doing something, this is something like decrementing. Assume just I'm writing I use something. Okay, well, so it's a decrementing. We are decrementing R1, R1, hash minus 8. When it is decrementing, flags will be affected. Here flags will be affected. So based on the flags, this branch instruction may execute if the 0 flag is not equal to 1. So this case, again it may repeat. Actually this is the step. But I told you when you just go for the MIPS instructions, flags won't be affected. Only we have to make use of registers. I think I explained this in some slides. I don't know on which slide I explained. So in case of MIPS architecture, keep remember conditional codes are not used. Only in ARM and CISC machines, conditional codes are used for branching. Okay, but in case of MIPS architecture, only registers are used. That's why, right, it is comparing R1 and R2. You fix it up this R2 value, any value. So assume that now, I mean, for this example, we are fixing it as R2 as 0. So when you keep on decrementing R1 at one stage, this will be 0 and this will be 0. Until it is not equal, it will repeat. Once it becomes equal, it will come to the next stage. Got it?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
yeah, this is what the code is mentioned there. First you understood the code. Tomorrow you will see like what is the data dependence in this, all those things. First you understood the code. This part are we clear? If you have any doubt with the code, you can ask me.
Ma'am, 0 R1 means 0th index, ma'am. Like array.
Yeah, you take anything. Yeah, 0 or 1 we take as that.
That means index.
Yeah, index.
Okay, ma'am.